Everyone is feeling that the world structure is changing right now. For my community, everyone is speaking about it. So it's kind of old systems are not already working. No one knows how to build the new ones. Basically, we're at the moment when this shift could be made. And I think when we stop thinking that impact is just something separated from our everyday life, then everything starting from communication between like you and your mom or like you and your partner will start to change, because the change is in your everyday actions. It's in your communication with other people. It's this change, and impact investing is just a monetizing part of these projects, which really helps to, to be a part of economy, to be a part of, solutions for our everyday life. But it's just a normal part of our life, the whole impact itself.
Welcome to the Purpose Studio. I'm your co-host, Nidal Al-Relami. Now, let's get into today's episode.
We're so happy to have you here. Daria, if you just want to give us a little background about you, where are you calling in from?
Sure. It's very hard always for me to answer this question, like who I am. It's just so many different aspects that I want to mention while talking about it. But I will say that I'm in the technological sector for many years. I would say maybe 7+ years. And I'm constantly looking for new challenges. And I started within the sector of arts and technology. I worked for 5 years around, digital art tech accelerators. I helped founders in the sector. Quite challenging sector, honestly, because first of all, you need to start any of your conversation with explanation of what are you exactly doing and what does it mean to work in art tech. But then, it was like kind of a shift for me, which was connected a lot to the personal questions that I started to ask myself. Like, the world is like really not sometimes a nice place. And I was constantly talking to people during the conferences, my colleagues, people from around the world. And I was like asking myself, like, why does it happen? What's wrong with this world? And who cares about it? Because I do, and I want to, think about it, to start doing something about it. And I would say that I'm like quite confident person, because I thought that, I'll be able to solve it. I met my future company, Thousand Faces, and the founder of this company 2 years ago in Lisbon during a web summit. And it was kind of a match with our founder, Mujan, when I was like, she's doing great things. And I think that together we can do something bigger. And maybe this is the point where I will start, working with the impact topic. So something like that happened. And we started to, talk a lot, to discover what we can do together. And she invited me to join the team, which she already had. So that was my shift. That was my small shift from the technological startups in art tech sector to the impact sector. And I would say one thing that also I do think helped me a lot to think about it, to switch to the impact, was the fact that I'm digital nomad for already many years. And the fact that you are changing constantly the place where you live, where you're building your life. You need to talk to so many people, so many different people around the world. Not like need, but you want. And you're building these connections and you're talking to them, you hear their problem, you hear their, you share with them the moments of happiness. And then you just start to understand, the broader picture. And you don't have this like bias of thinking that, we have like one country, then another country. You just start to feel like you're all a part of a human race, and we're all so similar. We all have so many in common things. Why do I need to think only about, some particular part of the world? Because I live in this world, the whole world. So I think it's really had a great impact on what I'm doing right now.
That was such a beautiful introduction. Can you explain what Thousand Faces does and what's the mission here? Because I think even what you were just saying, being a global nomad, I really resonate with this. I feel like right now I'm in Paris, but I live in New York. Carmen's based in Bali, and she's originally from Australia. And so in our team, we have somebody in South Africa. So we're kind of all around the place as well, and thinking about those impact stories that are everywhere. I want to hear more about Thousand Faces, because I think this is what attracted me to what you both are building?
Thank you for this question. The name of the company speaks louder than any words. It's really about 1,000 faces, 1,000 different faces. And what we're doing, we're creating community and platform for female investors and female founders, which are focused on impact-focused startups. So basically, we're working with everything that is connected to SDGs. We're helping to educate founders. We're helping to educate investors. We had 2 acceleration programs, 2 years. For 2 years, we run this program. And it was like a great experience for us because we talked a lot to the founders. We understood what they need. We understood how many different questions they have in their hand, and we need to help them, not only to give them funding, but honestly to talk to them, to give them the opportunity to find their community, to find the solutions to their questions. But after this, we understood that the problem is much bigger. And I think it's always something like that is happening with impact-focused startups. When you start with something small and then you understand that this small part is connected to many aspects.
Not to interrupt you, but what is the SDGs for listeners who don't know what that is? Because this is basically the global framework that Thousand Faces is following when we're thinking about impact investors.
Yes, so SDGs is Sustainability Development Goals. It's goals which were created by UN. So also, taking into account the global situation, and all of them are connected to the different goals that the world should bring to the table right now, and we need all to unite to work on that. So for example, it could be like education, the problems of poverty, the problems of climate change. So all of these problems are not connected to one particular country, but they're affecting the whole world. So this is the questions that we are raising while talking about 1,000 Faces and our founders and our female investors. We're talking about how we all together could solve these problems and what are the best solutions to do this. While understanding that the problem is really big, we also understood the other part of the problem is that not only female founders don't get access to the sector, but also female investors. And we see that female investors are investing into the female founders much more than anyone else. So basically, we understood that we could solve the other part of the problem, and we could be the ones who could just raise this question. So we started to work with female investors. We started to create our own bootcamp for female investors. We already had our first batch. We created theoretical course, but we also created a more practical course, which is really amazing for those who are ready to start investing, but they don't know what to do. And it's really, it's very difficult and complicated in many ways sector. So we are helping not only to get this theory, but really to start investing straight away. So you get your first check almost right after the course, because you will be guided by the professional angel investors who will help you to make this first deal. And after this, you'll feel much more confident in investments, and you can, go ahead with this journey. But also if you're just, exploring the topic, you don't know, do you want to invest or not? Maybe it's not your cup of tea. We have theoretical course, so you can just explore very broad amount of information. So it's very big course. You can just, listen to theory, understand what do you want to do with this information, and then you can go with a more, practical approach. So this is what we're doing, but we're a global community. We have 1,000 of members in our community around the globe. We're mostly right now focused on the investors from Europe because it is more connected to our investment thesis, which we want to implement in the future. But we have our events around Europe's most well-known conferences. Just recently, we had our event during the Viva Tech Paris. We usually attend Web Summit, /GITEX. So a lot of different conferences, and our aim is not only to be there, but to organize our own events, to make a space, to create a space for female founders and female investors to meet in person. Because, after COVID, some people started to think that personal connections are nothing and everything could be solved through the internet, but no. When it really comes to especially to the topic of startups, investments, and what is more impact, people want to feel the other person wants to understand what is going on with this person. Do they align with their visions or not? And for these, we're really trying to do our best to create these spaces for people to talk. And also one of our latest projects is our chapter leads project. So right now we're growing and we are creating chapters around the globe with the people who wants to lead Thousand Faces mission in their local communities. I think it's super important because no one knows you better than people who live with the same environment, understand your problems, and they could help you to solve these problems much easier than we can do. We're creating these chapters right now. We already have Scandinavia, we have London, we have the US, we have Helsinki. So we're growing and I'm very, very happy about it.
Wow. So inspiring. It's exactly what's needed is more spaces, because when you're connecting, and this is not about being gendered, but like I've just recently had a conversation around a project that's looking to do a fundraise, but not a traditional investment fundraise. It's more like a friend fund where the people really care about the project and the values that are in the project. And we've got a few powerhouse females that have been like, I want to support. And we were like, maybe the first cohort of this fundraise can be a group of values aligned females who bring different ingredients to the table. And that connection, that facilitation, I can totally see the value in 1,000 Faces and how you can completely change the direction of a project and an investor's life by connecting them with the right people who are values aligned. So super powerful, and excited to see more of these spaces come, because we know how traditionally there's less females in the investment space and female founders also get less funded. I got a quick question just related to that. What's the biggest challenge you face in this area in terms of trying to create the space and the events and the conditions for these female founders and the investors to connect? What's the biggest challenge you find?
There are lots of them, honestly. Women are scared by the world where they live, so they underestimate themselves constantly. It's so hard, and you just, sometimes you just need to be kind of their psychotherapist in order to help them to just believe in what they're doing. Because, this common problem in like statistics is like proving that, for example, even like while women are in the hiring process, they usually name the last salary, the smaller salaries than male candidates. So it's like constantly happening in the sector from a very different perspectives. So I would say that it's like very, very hard to empower women, and that's why I really believe in the role models, and I really believe in the communities, because also what I see is that this hunger for community is really huge. We know a lot of amazing women. We can see them like on TV, we can see them like, in Instagram, whatever. But the problem is that everything is like really far from you. So it's really hard to consider someone so far from you being your role model, because you don't know what they're doing. You don't know what is the way of life I would say that the community and these role models around you are helping a lot. And it's a big problem that women are frightened even to go to these communities, because they're like, oh, I'm not ready for this, or who I am to do investments. I don't have 5 years of financial education. I won't be able to do this. Or for example, oh, how can I solve this world problems? I'm just a person. And then it's just so not true, because they're doing amazing stuff. They have amazing ideas. They have a lot of work capacity, honestly, to realize it. And when I'm super inspired by women when they combine all of these parts of their life together. I can't believe they can do this. They are mothers, they are creators, they are startuppers, they are investors. We have one person in our community. She's all of this, but also she's a lecturer. And I mean, it's just how do you do this? But she does it, and it's amazing.
I really love this, because I think even for me, when I spoke about SheFi when started the call. And SheFi is a platform for women to learn about Web3 blockchain for financing. And when I originally started, I didn't know anything about this, but what attracted me was because I signed up for the Paris Summit that they had, and it was a day of full panels with women founders and entrepreneurs. And I can say that like just going to that empowered me to start the education and like do the 3-month cohort, because it's so true. Just being part of that tribe, and even though you're not necessarily there, like for me, it was like not there in my career, not there yet in my financial education and my understanding, just being with that collective felt really good. And I was like, oh, okay, I relate with them on different things. And so I see a lot of these people as my expanders. You know, when I was sitting in the crowd and watching these women speak, and they're talking about, you know, that identity of being a mother, or that identity of like not knowing anything, and that kind of that founder's journey of all those insecurities and that doubt that comes up. Like, I was like, oh, I can relate to this. They're human. And so I really love what you're saying here about sometimes it's really just that. And maybe that's the first step for these women to feel good about their idea. And just to follow up on that, because one of the questions I had for you was to talk about some of those risks and those myths that come up with women founders who are looking for investment opportunities, especially if they just have an idea. They're like, I'm part of this community and there's a huge homelessness problem, and I really feel super passionate about this, and I just don't know where to start, and I don't even know if this is the place for me, you know? So like, what are some of those myths, or even some of the risk associated with those things that you would like to share with our listeners?
The first and the most, the biggest mistake will be not to ask questions. So not, stop judging yourself in your mind without, talking to someone and just judging that you can't do this, you can't do this. So basically the first step, just start talking to people. What I found out, because I had an experience of being a founder. I had an experience of being like investor and, manager and different roles in a very like male dominated companies. For me, it was not a problem, but the problem is that you're just like feeling yourself a little bit like you're not good enough, which is not true. I would say that the biggest myth is that this space is closed for you, because it's not. You just need to ask questions. You need to talk to people. From also my experience, I'm so glad that I've met a lot of amazing people on my way. You even can't imagine how many people are willing to help you to do something great just because they can do this. And for me, it's my personal philosophy, because right now I'm helping a few projects with the first-time founders who doesn't know anything. They're mostly women. They know a lot, but it's, they have like lots of questions, and it's great that I can just do this. I can help, I can answer these questions, and I can introduce them to someone or help them to shape the form of the project itself. For me, it's kind of a life cycle. And if you're not in this life cycle, you're doing something wrong. Someone helped you, then you need to help someone. I would not say that everyone is like that, but I'm encouraging you to find these people. They for sure will be on your way. Also, the myth is that women are not like so productive. I've heard it, sometimes. I personally think women are much more productive than men.
Women can do like 10 things at one time, so we are very productive.
And also that, the sector is open to the female founders and also to the female investors. You just need to say your word there.
I saw one of the stats on the Thousand Faces website, and it was saying that only 3% of VC funding goes to startup led by women, and especially with those projects that have to do with climate, sustainability. And those are really shocking numbers, and I feel like that's even, I don't know if that's only the percentage for like that early stage. If you want to talk more about that, because I think those numbers are, I feel like we should be caught up by now, but it just to feel like that's still kind of the data that we're looking at is pretty shocking.
I mean, I personally think that it's like also like a very big problem, and the most important problem is mindset. We have women around, tech ecosystem. We have a lot of them. I honestly think that the problem is much bigger because of the mindset of the people, and it's like very patriarchy. So it's like you always need to be to behave like a man, to be in the sector. And I'm not like, when I'm thinking about behaving differently, I'm thinking about the strategic way, because women are more caring. Women are more about protection. They can be harsh, they're strong, they can do whatever they want, they can do whatever they can or need. The thing is that the approach, the strategy will be different. And when you start to behave as a woman, you can face some misunderstandings. People may feel uncomfortable. So you need to play the rules that patriarchy world is building.
This is such an interesting conversation. I feel like there's so many questions to ask, and just that dynamic between a woman founder and a woman investor. Do you find that it's kind of alleviating this problem of like, maybe if there were male investors sitting in front of a woman founder giving a pitch, like, if there's like this dynamic is actually improving it, or do you find that women are still so conditioned in this patriarchal way of thinking about their investment strategy? So yeah, I wonder if like that community aspect, that the relational building actually helps women kind of break down that ego that is adopted from the patriarchal conditioning of how this should be done. Because I think I'm not at that stage yet, but I just think about all of it. It feels very emotional too. And I think like one of my understanding is that you have to kind of be that tough, like hardcore person talking about your idea and talking about the numbers really. And I think there's a level of professionalism, obviously, that you need to hold. But I feel like I would be more comfortable going to a community space, understanding what we were talking about before, a woman, like if they're aligned with my vision, if we can share our network, if we can share our ideas. So yeah, I was just kind of thinking about that dynamic of if it actually is improving it in your eyes.
I do believe that it's changing. I do believe that the sector is changing. The problem of these big questions is that the changes are very systematic, and they are not, you can't reach this huge success in 1 year, 2 years, because honestly, what we're doing, we're just changing the mindset. And it's like, it's very hard. It's very hard even to change the mindset, among women, because we also have this, like, competition. It's also a big part of the community. So the way of how you behave in the community is also very important. Even among the other women, you need to think about it, you need to care, to support each other. And I'm so glad that we're doing this in Thousand Faces. I do see the changes, like even during the pitches, the conferences. I do remember one moment when I was on some conference, I wouldn't say what was the conference, but it was in Poland, and it was like a VC meeting. So it was like around 50 people in the room, and there were 2 women in the room. It was like so uncomfortable, and no one wanted to talk to me because I was a woman and I was a very young woman. So they constantly they kept ignoring me, like what you else could tell us, nothing super serious. Right now, it's not like that. Right now, I see a lot of women in the room. I see that, everyone is communicating, socializing. I saw a lot of great pitches, and I saw the reactions of the male juries, whatever. The thing is that the problem is just much bigger, and it's not about separated communities or just different people. It's really about thinking how we can think differently, how we can really change the mindset. And it's honestly a big mission of Thousand Faces because Thousand Faces is just a part of a bigger journey that the team and the founder has in her head. And I do believe that it's like very right way to choose.
Yeah, just want to comment, it's the whole masculine feminine approach and how the ecosystem is changing. I did a project a couple of years back which was similar community but more around crypto investing and ensuring that more women had the education and the knowledge around it to make these decisions because it was so male dominated. And I think it's definitely changing. There's a long way to go, but I also agree that you're seeing a difference in the rooms and events that you go to. There's more confidence. You spoke about it. Confidence is a big challenge with female founders and investors. So there's more confidence, and even though I'm a bit of a I'm very half masculine and feminine. And I think a lot of the projects that we work on and the founders we work with, I work really well with senior executive males because I'm very can be to the point and masculine, but then I'm also getting coaching on the other side of it's okay to be feminine and soft. And
Yes,
you
definitely.
you can handle grace in these situations, and it doesn't always have to be so cutthroat. So I
I think
think
it's super important
female
also to
founders,
add
yeah.
that it's not about the fight, because I'm against of this fight between, like males and females. Like, oh my God, we're all humans. The thing is that we're just keep ignoring one big part of the behavioral structure, of the strategy structure. And I think if someone, just one person and then more people will see this other part, this other strategy, which just can be like much more sustainable, successful, and we can bring much more to the world than we can do now, because we just keep ignoring one part of our life.
I just want to say one little story, which is good. It's been fascinating as a female founder myself to see what a difference it can do when I bring this feminine energy and this softness and this kindness, especially into when it's boardrooms or it's teams that are in different globes and there's quite a strong, harsh, masculine energy. I think just as an inspiration for any of the listeners, that when you really embrace that feminine side of you, you can make such a difference in the room and what you're doing with your business or with your investors to, bring that into it. So don't be afraid of it. Embrace it. And that kindness, soft energy actually can change a lot of people's lives and the dynamics of what you're working in.
I think it's part of the storytelling. It's part of relating to the communities, having a pulse on what impact is needed. And that is such part of the feminine energy of that protection we were talking about, that nurturing aspect. And then we have the masculine drive to say, okay, now how do we push this forward? What do we do about it? And so talking about that pulse on community needs and impact, I wanted to go into some of those founder and investor stories about what are some of the projects and impact startups that Thousand Faces is focusing on right now? Where are we seeing this impact?
The focus of Thousand Faces is mostly education, health tech and wellness. We also work a lot with climate tech, water management, and waste management. So these are core topics that we are supporting a lot. We also, of course, looking at AI and, deep tech, which is connected to a lot of solutions, for example, for climate tech and also wellness. So we have more than 300 startups in our pipeline right now. They're all, they're created by women. They are operated also by women, and they're all connected to any SDG that I mentioned. I would say that we supported a lot of projects during our acceleration programs. We had an amazing startups from all over the world. So back to the acceleration program, we had no geography that we supported. So we worked globally, and we had a lot of startups from South America, from Africa. It was really amazing to hear the stories as women are creating water management tool, because they understand that the problem is that the community doesn't get the clean water, and the problem is that it's very expensive technology, so no one could afford it, to get it. So she created with her team, she created the solution of how to make the water clean, how to distribute it, and they're growing, and it's amazing. But also for me personally, I'm very, very fascinated by deep tech. Right now, for example, one of the projects that I'm looking at, and I'm even helping with some advisory to them, it's a space tech project for the climate tech solution and also for wellness solutions, health tech solutions. Because the problem right now, and many people don't think about it, the project name is Pulse, and the biggest problem, for example, for the developing countries is that no one around the world except of 3-4 countries has their own space programs and satellites. And satellites are controlling a big part of our everyday life. We just don't think about it. But honestly, when you're driving your car, or you are, watching your TV show, low, you basically use a lot of information from the satellites. So basically right now we understand that the space is already controlled by different countries and not everyone has access to it. So what she's helping to create with her nonprofit and for-profit company is education around the space and helping countries to work on their space projects, space agencies, and also, for example, to partner with different countries to create something around it in the country. But also her for-profit company is developing tools, hardware for the Earth, but the Earth that should be, this hardware should be checked around the globe in a very harsh conditions in order to be ready for, climate changes. And it's connected to not only to, just like kind of a things that you could get everywhere, but it's connected to the specific areas where you have very harsh conditions. You have not accessible, for example, medicine or climate solutions. So they're working with these developing countries a lot, which I personally think is amazing. And it's amazing because the team is consisting only from women right now. All of them are scientists, all of them are astronauts, bigger managers. It's very inspiring to see how women are just breaking the barriers of the possibilities, working in space tech, in deep tech, and, solving the very, very space problems, Earth problems. So it's very inspiring. And honestly, to hear all of these stories all the time, it makes you believe in the world, in the future of the world, because sometimes, and I honestly think that was a part of the, reason why I switched my attention to impact, because I was so scared about the future of this planet. I was so sad watching what is going on around. But when I talk to these people, and I have this privilege to talk to these people a lot, I'm constantly thinking that, okay, we have chances.
That was so beautiful. And these stories are so important to hear about, we have so much negativity out there, but exactly to your point, there's so much work and impact that's being done. And so it's really important for us, and that's why we created the Purpose Studio, to talk about these stories and to really show that, we're going to be okay, because there is so much momentum, to tackle some of these really large global problems.
We have a chance, and I think that there needs to be, again, like Nada said, Purpose Studio. More people need to be hearing this, because this is defining the future for future generations as well. And this next generation of female entrepreneurs and male entrepreneurs, but we know that there's been an underrepresentation of the female entrepreneurs. So these stories are there to inspire people that it can. And I love that your passion and why you went into the impact world is that it's so dreary, and there's so much. We know the world is on fire in every direction. There's political stuff, there's wars, there's so much pain and hate, and there's so much out there, but we can make a difference. And I really believe, but that I think the similar reason of why I've gone into that, just knowing that there is a way to change something in this world. We just need to have more of these conversations. There needs to be more confidence and inspiration around it. And then, of course, the technical side and the funding side, which is so important to facilitate. So yes, for positive conversations. That was beautiful.
I guess one of the biggest things that comes up for me is that I feel like I'm just touching the surface when it comes to impact investing and understanding it, really. But my background is in peace building. I studied that in grad school. And so a lot of the frustration that came from me, working on projects with nonprofits and thinking about funding, I always hit this wall of trying to figure out, how do you even support peace projects? How do you even support these more social startups and initiatives? Because I feel like it's easier. I mean, I don't know, but I think that I've seen more case studies for investing in sustainability projects, tech projects, but when it comes to more of these social issues, I always wonder, what are kind of the metrics that people are looking for? How do you even measure this? Because a lot of peace projects are not just 1 year of metrics, right? They take 3 years, they take 10 years to see the actual development within a society, and to start thinking about how to tackle conflict and all of this. So yeah, I just want to talk about you even working on projects like this at Thousand Faces? Are you supporting founders that have more of these like social and societal initiatives?
Thank you for this question. I think it's super important to raise this question because the lack of sustainable business models in the sector, it's a big problem. So for the questions that you raised, first of all, I would say that everything is so connected and we need to just accept this. So when you're working on a climate tech, you're not just working on a climate tech. You're working on the questions of poverty, you're working on the questions of education, you're raising, such a different mindset for the future. So when I'm thinking about like peace building, I honestly think that it's not like one project. It's just the scope of different activities of very different people who are doing what they could do in very, very different directions. I had a chance to be a part of some events of a global network, GSN, which is connected to the Sustainability Development Goal number 8, which is poverty. And I've heard a lot of different and amazing, panels and just pitches and thoughts on these problems. What I would say that when we're talking about peace building, for me, it's about communication. So, because I do believe that the way of how we could all sit together and talk is the only way to the peace. For me, people, when they help to unite different opinions, when they help to, bring to one room really, around 50 people from different parts of the world who can talk about the same problems fearlessly, which is super important, share their views, not something that someone wants to hear, because for me, it's a big problem of many conferences. People just, promoting themselves, they're promoting their companies and they're promoting the topic that they want, raise, but they're not talking personally. They're not usually telling the truth. They just want to say something that will be good for their PR. For me, it's a big problem, because when everyone is thinking only about themselves, there is no way to peace building. So I would say maybe it's not the answer that you expected, but for me, if we are all building, projects, we're building the sustainable business models around education, around health tech, around the problems with climate, water, whatever, we're all making our, way to make this world more peaceful or to reach this peace. But the peace building itself, I think it's about very, very clear and honest communication and acceptance of our difference and understanding of something that unites us.
Yeah, I think it definitely answers my question. And this is exactly how I see peace building as well, because I'm always thinking about the systems thinking approach, like the holistic picture of all of these different actors working together. And that's what I feel so strongly on the people side and the stories and just understanding what the community priorities are, just hearing their daily lives and what's actually impacting them. I'm not like an impact investor, and I don't have even the science behind like how to do the quantitative data and understanding impact this way. But I always think about those personal stories and that conflict that is not seen because the top players are thinking about how to measure this impact. And so I guess that's more of my biased understanding, or not really understanding the scope of impact investing and like what it actually is looking at. But when I think about peace building, to your point, it's really connecting all of these different spaces, whether that's poverty or that's sustainability, and it's really looking at that big picture and then thinking about the people and what you're saying, the communication, how to better understand how this is affecting emotions and livelihoods. And peace building, they call it positive peace. It's just kind of like the development of society. And so you have to have this in consideration when you're thinking about all of this. Me and Carmen, actually, we had a chance to work for the Bhutan Innovation Forum last October. One of the most beautiful things about that experience, I think, was the first time that I saw a conference that had a holistic viewpoint from all of these different industry leaders and spaces, from architecture to sustainability to entrepreneurship to mindfulness and meditation. How can we bring all these players in one conference and talk about the the future of Bhutan's initiatives and their entrepreneurship, and hearing from the local perspective as well, having those people as speakers. So it was the first time that I had ever seen it, and I was like, this is exactly what we need more of. And I love the fact that it started from this understanding of mindfulness and thinking about the emotional, spiritual, and physical health first, and then bringing in the topics of innovation, all of this on top of it. So, it's really exciting to think about this is where we're shifting in the world now. These conversations are kind of blending into each other. As before, I feel like, especially with my academic studies, it was very like you studied development, you studied climate, it's very separate, but now it's really, we have to understand how all of this is intersecting with each other.
Well said. We're living in such an intersecting world. I'd love to get your feedback or opinion, whatever's the right word for this, around like how that connects to, so everything's becoming more interconnected. We know there's a shift and there's a change. And angel investing and the VC market has also gone through change, and even impact investing, right? In the early days, impact investing, everyone thought it was going to be this fabulous method of raising funds to do something for good, but then there was a lot of greenwashing along the way, and especially with people who are focusing on not the quantitative but just the qualitative metrics and hoping something would happen. And I've seen there's been quite a shift over the last years in this impact investing. People want to see the money now. There's this qualitative and quantitative side, right? So it's a little bit connected to like, how do you invest in something that's social impact? A lot of it's qualitative. How do you measure that? How can there be a smart investment? There's so many questions on that. But at the moment, just in your opinion and how you're experiencing the world in your container and the world that you guys work in, where angel investing, VC investing, impact investment, where's it at the moment? And like, what do female founders have to understand to even try and start grappling with or engaging with this world?
We're now at the stage where when everyone needs to understand the power of impact. My personal dream is that impact investing will be a part of any investing that we have. So it's not separated activity, which is like, this is only for impact and the rest is not. And we're just like killing people, we are destroying the planet. Because it's not impact investing, So impact should be a mindset. So I personally feel like right now we are at the moment where a lot of projects are starting to shift and understand that, and like the bigger players, because honestly, even like a lot of small startups are not changing the game. So we need to have like very big players who will change, the rules, who will hear the voices of people around. So our goal is really to bring this topic to the conversations, but also I see the changes because everyone is feeling that the world structure is changing right now. For my community, everyone is speaking about it. So it's kind of old systems are not already working. No one knows how to build the new ones. Basically, we're at the moment when this shift could be made. And I think when we stop thinking that impact is just something separated from our everyday life, then everything starting from communication between like you and your mom or like you and your partner will start to change, because the change is in your everyday actions. It's in your communication with other people. It's when you have someone who has different opinion, don't ignore this person. Don't shout at him or her, but just start communicating, just start understanding why it's different. Maybe we could, think about it. So for me, it's this change, and impact investing is just a monetizing part of these projects, which really helps to, to be a part of economy, to be a part of, solutions of our everyday life. But it's just a normal part of our life, the whole impact itself.
I love that. That's reframing this whole term. Why does it have to be separate? It's honestly, it's the same even with my concept with social enterprise, right? All business and everything we do needs to sit in this capitalist model that the world functions in. We can't ignore that. But if business could all move towards knowing that everything you do has some sort of impact, or you're making a difference and progress on your journey towards being better, and it's as part of the holistic picture, then we'll stop seeing it as a separate thing.
Yeah, and I think it's really shaping people to be more conscious and intentional about their work and their impact. Because if you are coming from this place about, okay, how do I solve actual problems? How do I benefit the community that I'm a part of? How do I benefit my team? And even like what you're saying, these micro changes of like, how do I speak to my parent? How do I speak to my partner? That's really how we start to see this trickle effect, and it becomes more sustainable. I think that's the part of that people really miss, is that it's no longer this system of really like pushing through without thinking about the repercussions of acting a certain way. It's really have to embody this care and intention in the way that we show up in the world. And so I think it's just what you're saying about mindset. You started off talking about this in the podcast, and now it's really starting to seep into my mindset that this is really the way that we have to go forward. And I think Thousand Faces is the larger project here, right? Like you were mentioning, that it's really this shift of mentality of, it's not just this cool idea that I have or this one tech solution that's going to be really amazing, but that story, that the deeper why, the purpose, right, is what will lead founders and companies to be sustainable. When you're thinking about the work and the world you want to help shape, what does true success look like to you? And is it systematic change, healing, community, transformation? Is it something personal? So I really just want to hone in on this, like this deeper purpose. What is that for you, or Thousand Faces?
For me, the better world is the world where everyone could think not only about themselves. The moment when you just talk to someone, and it's like really, it's the world is changing not because of the policymakers. The world is changing when everyone can think about what they're doing, why they're doing that, and what they want to achieve, and how do they want to do this. Even with a smaller conversation, if you will start to not only to try to share what do you think, but also to hear the person in front of you, there will be a change. If you will think about why you're doing this and how you could be helpful to someone around you, that will be a change. So this moment when we can think about the broader picture, but honestly starting with the small things around you, what you could change today, tomorrow, because we will not change the world tomorrow. But we can change our life, we can help someone around us. And I do believe that kindness creates more kindness, and it's kind of an affect that is growing. And it's something that in 10, 20 years will help to change the mindset. The mindset where we can live together with nature, together with each other, understanding each other, not in an ideal world probably, but maybe in a little bit better world. And I wanted to say thank you, amazing women, because you this change. And I think the projects like this, the steps that you are doing, this is a part of the change. And that's why I had no doubt to take part in this podcast, because I want to help, I want to be a part of this change, and I want to support as much as I can.
Thank you so much. So lovely. I know that was so well said. You speak so beautifully. My heart feels full after this session. I feel like really legit, just full and empowered, and I'm actually going to go have a power session with one of my female founder clients now, and I feel like so inspired to go and help her. I have one last question just to wrap up. Say I'm a female founder. I've been around for a couple of years, and it could be service-based, product-based, whatever the business is. And I am now trying to figure out how to scale or take the business to the next level. What would be the advice you would give me as a female founder? Because I'm hoping there's a lot of people listening to this that are looking for some inspiration and see what golden nugget you might have.
Find the people around you who are more professional, more experienced. Talk to them, ask them, what do you think I need to do? Because I'm not an answer. I'm not so professional in building the startups, but I'm the person who is connecting different people, and I see how much value it brings. Secondly, I would say don't stop, because sometimes building a startup, it's such a harsh and difficult journey. If at some point you feel like out of energy and you're exhausted, and I know that many founders have this feeling like, why I'm doing this? Like, I just can't do it anymore. Don't stop. It's the moment after which you will fly. Just remind yourself that mostly everyone have the same feeling. You're not alone, and you will do this. And the third one, I would say, honestly, just like look at the broader picture. I think when you're talking about scalability and like scale of the project, remind yourself your dream. So when we're starting startups, we're usually having some bigger picture in mind. But of course, in order to start, we need to go with the smaller part of it, with this MVP that just, can work or whatever, or can bring some money. But when you want to scale, just don't forget about what do you want to do, because otherwise you can choose the wrong path and choose the scale way that will not bring you, the happiness, the money reward, because it will be just hard and it will be just difficult for you to go this path. So take a moment to reflect on what really you want to do. So 3 pieces of advice.
Best advice you could ever give. Thank you. You've re-inspired my entrepreneurial journey too, but to remember that.
This was absolutely amazing. I feel so inspired. Like Carmen said, I really appreciate you being on the Purpose Studio.
Thank you so much. Thanks for having me. It's really a pleasure.
Bye-bye. Have a good rest of your day.